Hey guys, welcome back to Beyond the Box Score and I am your host Hayat. Before we jump in, quick personal note, sorry for no NBA and NHL breakdowns on February 28th. I had a doctor's appointment for my baby girl, so family had to come first. Appreciate you guys rocking with me and understanding that. We're back locked in today. Now, today we're breaking down 3 college basketball matchups on March 1st. And I'm walking through every angle the same way I do on camera, thinking out loud, working through the spots, the travel, the momentum swings, the emotional letdowns, the revenge angles, and how these games could realistically play out if they unfold the way the situation suggests. This is pure analysis and opinion, no guarantees, no promises, just me connecting dots and attacking spots the way I see them. Alright, let's get into it and start breaking this slate down. Purdue Boilermakers at Ohio State, the lean here is Purdue lay the points. Let me walk through why. Okay, so we got the Purdue Boilermakers headed into Columbus, Ohio to play Ohio State, and right off the top, I'm looking at this as a bounce back spot, like a real bounce back spot, not just narrative bounce back, but situationally it lines up. Purdue obviously coming off that tough loss against Michigan State on Thursday, and we were on Michigan State in that game. I made the video on that game. I went with Michigan State. I didn't think they were going to win the game outright, but you know what, Purdue just didn't close well. And I'm sitting there watching that game thinking, this team is shaky, man. This team is shaky. They are really good from a roster perspective, and I mean really good, but there are certain spots where they just have not played well. And I thought there was some bad coaching there at the end of that Michigan State game. Some decisions late that just didn't connect for me. But here's the thing, if this matchup plays out like a standard response game, where a talented team that just got punched in the mouth comes out focused, locked in, and a little bit irritated, that's when I want to be on Purdue. One path I see here is Purdue controlling tempo early, setting the tone defensively, and not letting this thing get into one of those weird, grindy, coin flip finishes. Because that's when Ohio State would have a chance to hang around. Ohio State has actually impressed me this season. I'm not going to sit here and act like they're some bottom-tier Big Ten team. They've been a good team this season. They've shown fight. They've shown stretches of efficient offense, and they've played with some confidence. But when I zoom out and compare roster to roster, talent to talent, shot creation to shot creation, I still think Purdue is the far better team. That's what connects for me. Over 40 minutes, over 2 halves, the firepower gap matters. And yeah, this game is in Columbus. I understand that. It's on the road. We're going to have to lay some points with Purdue. That's uncomfortable for some people, laying points on the road in the Big Ten, but let's be real, guys, Ohio State is a football school. Their basketball home court advantage isn't like these teams like Purdue or Illinois or a Michigan. I really don't look at Columbus, Ohio, that gym being as difficult to play in compared to some of these other Big Ten schools. It's not Mackey Arena. It's not one of those environments where you feel like the walls are closing in on you. So if this matchup plays out like Purdue comes in locked defensively and forces Ohio State into half-court possessions late in the shot clock, I don't know if Ohio State has the consistent shot making to stay within margin for 40 minutes. That's the key for me. Can Ohio State trade clean looks? Can they handle Purdue's physicality inside? Because Purdue, when they're dialed in, they can overwhelm you with size, with structure, with execution. And what I keep coming back to is motivation. Purdue just got embarrassed late against Michigan State. I don't think they were supposed to lose that game the way they did. And sometimes that matters. Sometimes that shows up in the first 8 minutes of the next game. I can see Purdue coming out sharp, building a lead, and then forcing Ohio State to play from behind. And if Ohio State is playing from behind against a team that can execute in the half court and hit timely shots, that's when separation happens. Could this get tight? Sure. It's the Big Ten. Weird stuff happens. But if this matchup plays out like talent wins out and focus shows up early, Purdue just has too much. Through 2 halves, I think they wear Ohio State down. I think the firepower shows. I think the response shows. Yeah, that's why the lean sticks at Purdue lay the points. Next game we have Michigan State at Indiana. The lean here is Indiana, take the points to play it safe. Let me walk through why. Alright, so we got Michigan State headed into Indiana, into Assembly Hall, which is one of my favorite stadium names in all of sports. Assembly Hall, that's just classic college basketball right there. And when I look at this matchup, the first thing that jumps out to me isn't talent. It's not roster. It's not even necessarily matchups. It's the spot. It's the emotional spot. Michigan State is coming off a massive win, one of their biggest wins of the season, going into Mackey Arena, playing Purdue and winning that game outright. I made the video on that game. I took Michigan State. I didn't think they were going to win outright. I thought they would cover the spread. I thought it would be a close game, but what a game that was. Huge win for Sparty. That's the kind of win that drains you a little bit. Physically, sure, but emotionally, even more. And now we have to fade them in this spot. We have to fade them in this spot. If this matchup plays out like a classic Big Ten letdown scenario, this is exactly what it looks like. You go on the road, you pull off a massive statement win in one of the toughest environments in the conference, and then you have to turn around and go into Assembly Hall to face a rested Indiana team that is sitting there waiting for you. That's a completely different dynamic. Indiana's last game was on February 24th, so they have a couple days of rest advantage over Michigan State. That matters, especially in conference play, especially late in the season when legs get heavy and every possession feels physical. One path I see here is Indiana coming out sharper early, fresher, more desperate. Because this is a massive game for Indiana. The last time Indiana played at home was against Northwestern. They were laying 8.5 points in that game and they ended up losing that one outright. So you're telling me they were favored by 8.5 at home, lost outright, and now they get Michigan State walking in off the high of one of their biggest wins of the season. That's a motivational swing if I've ever seen one. What connects for me is urgency. Indiana coming off that loss against Northwestern, at home, as a favorite of 8.5, that stings. That lingers. That sits with you in practice. That's film sessions where the tone is different. That's a team hearing about it for days. And now they get Michigan State, who if this was played on a neutral site, if this was a conference tournament type game, yeah, Michigan State is a better team. I'm not saying they're not. I'm not saying they're not. They are a substantially better team when we're just comparing roster and overall body of work. But this isn't neutral. This isn't vacuum basketball. This is situational college basketball in late February. If this matchup plays out like Indiana controls tempo early, feeds off the Assembly Hall crowd, and turns this into a half-court grind, I can absolutely see Michigan State's legs looking just a little bit heavier than they did at Mackey Arena. And that's all it takes. Not a huge edge, just a subtle one. A few loose balls going Indiana's way. A few defensive possessions where they rotate just a half step quicker because they're fresher. And I keep coming back to the mental side. Michigan State just climbed the mountain emotionally. It's hard to replicate that same intensity 48 hours later on the road again. Meanwhile, Indiana has been sitting, waiting, stewing over that loss to Northwestern as an 8.5-point favorite. That's not something you just shrug off. That's something you circle the next game for. It's gross. It's ugly. It feels wrong because if you line these teams up talent for talent, you lean Michigan State. I get that, but betting isn't just about who's better. It's about the spot. It's about the rhythm. It's about timing. And this is a clear letdown spot for Michigan State and a clear get-up spot for Indiana. If this matchup plays out like emotion and rest matter more than pure roster strength, Indiana is right there, and honestly, I could definitely see Indiana winning this game outright. But to play it safe, I'm taking the points. Yeah, that's why the lean sticks at Indiana, take the points to play it safe. Quick pause right here. If you've got an even one lean you like so far from Purdue at Ohio State, Michigan State at Indiana, or Rutgers at Maryland, hit that like button. It tells me these full college slates are worth the deep dives. And if you want to help the channel grow, hit that like and subscribe button too. It takes 2 seconds of your life, but these 2 seconds are lifeline to the channel. We're building this thing the right way. Now we have Rutgers at Maryland. The lean here is Maryland first half line and over total points in this matchup. Let me walk through why. Alright, so between Rutgers and Maryland, let's really unpack this because on the surface it looks ugly. We've got Rutgers sitting at 11-17 on the season, and Maryland, same thing, 11-17. So immediately people look at that and go, why am I even analyzing this game? But this is exactly where I think edges show up, in these gross spots where both teams look bad on paper and you have to dig into form, scheduling, and situation. Now Rutgers, 2-8 in their last 10 games, currently on a 2-game losing streak. Terrible median, terrible look across the boards. And in their most recent matchup, they played Washington at home. That game landed in a 7,972 final with Washington taking the win. Washington was laying 4.5 points in that matchup. So not only did Rutgers lose outright, but they also failed to cover the spread. That's a double hit. And when you're 2-8 in your last 10, on a 2-game losing streak, coming off a 7,972 loss at home as a 4.5-point underdog, that's not a confidence builder. That's not momentum. That's just noise stacking up against you. Now flip to Maryland, 3-7 in their last 10 games. Not a good look on the median side of things either. They're coming off a loss to Nebraska in their most recent matchup. They lost that game in a 6,174 final. Nebraska came into that game 23-4, ranked 12th in the nation. That matters to me. That's strength of schedule right there. Nebraska was laying 16 and 12 points in that matchup, and Maryland did in fact get the cover in that game, but failed to win outright. So if this matchup plays out like a step down in competition matters, Maryland just went from facing a 23-4, 12th-ranked Nebraska laying 16 and 12 to now facing Rutgers at 11 and 17, who are 2-8 in their last 10 and on a 2-game losing streak. That's a massive drop in class. What connects for me is this situational spot where Maryland is climbing down from a brutal strength of schedule hit. They just saw one of the better teams in the country. Rutgers, meanwhile, just played Washington at home and lost 7,972 as a 4.5-point dog. Their median isn't really shifting. Their schedule difficulty isn't really giving them a reset. Maryland's is. One path I see here is Maryland coming out aggressive early, especially at home, at Xfinity Center, noon game, Sunday game. Fans are going to get up for this one. I think it's going to be a madhouse. And when you're 11 and 17, and you just covered against a 23-4, 12th-ranked Nebraska team that was laying 16 and 12, you can build something off that. So for me, this is going to be a shockwave spot. I like Maryland first half line against the spread over Rutgers. If this matchup plays out like Maryland uses that energy and that drop in defensive pressure to get comfortable early, I can see them making a statement in the first 20 minutes. That's why I want the first half line. I don't even want to mess around with a late game grind. I want the early punch. Now the second piece of this, both of these teams are brutal offensively, 11 and 17 across the board. Terrible medians. Both coming off losses in their most recent matchup. Everything is screaming take the under. Everything. When you see 6,174 and 7,972 and records like 11 and 17 and 2-8 in last 10 and 3-7 in last 10, the public instinct is under. But if this matchup plays out like defensive intensity dips because neither team is exactly elite on that side right now, and especially when you factor in that Maryland does edge when it comes to the field, that mismatch on the floor matters. What connects for me is that the perception of bad offense might actually inflate defensive expectation too much. And if Maryland pushes early at home, if Rutgers has to chase, we could see more possessions than people expect. So I'm going contrarian here. Give me the over total points in this matchup. I believe we're going to see some points in this game, especially with Maryland having that edge when it comes to the field. If this matchup plays out like tempo creeps up even slightly and shot quality improves against weaker defensive pressure than Nebraska brought, this total can sneak over. So yeah, for me it's Maryland first half line and over total points in this matchup. That's the same game parlay I'm rolling with, and that's why the lean sticks at Maryland first half line and over total points in this matchup. Last game for this video, Belmont versus Illinois State, and the lean here is Illinois State at home. Let me walk through why. So I'm looking at this matchup and the first thing that jumps off the page to me is records and positioning, right? Illinois State comes into this one at 19-11 on the year and 11-8 in conference play. They just knocked off Northern Iowa 7,169 in their last matchup, and here's the weird thing about them, they have now alternated wins and losses in each of their last 11 games. That's not a small sample. That's a team that literally cannot string consistency together, win, loss, over and over. So immediately I'm asking myself, okay, if they just beat Northern Iowa 7,169, are they due for the loss in that pattern? Or is this finally the spot where the pattern breaks because the situation demands it? Now flip it over to Belmont. Belmont is 26-4 on the year, 16-3 in conference. They picked up their fourth win in a row with a 9,864 win over Evansville in their last matchup. And when I watch Belmont, what connects for me is how they've handled business against teams they should handle. They've been doing a good job beating up on teams they should beat up on. They drilled Indiana State. They drilled Evansville. They handled that revenge spot against Indiana State. And full transparency, that revenge win over Indiana State was much needed when you look back on it, because Indiana State is just 3-16 in conference play and currently sitting tied for the basement of the Missouri Valley. So when you rewind the tape and look at Belmont's earlier loss to Indiana State, hindsight, that's not a great loss for Belmont. That's the kind of loss that makes you raise an eyebrow. But here's the thing, Belmont also had that really strong win over Murray State by 17 points on the road about a couple of weeks ago. That's not just beating up on the bottom of the league, that's going on the road and flexing. So when I line up 26-4 and 16-3 in conference, 4 straight wins, including a 9,864 blowout, and I compare it to 19-11 and 11-8 with a team that's alternated wins and losses in each of their last 11 games, talent and consistency-wise, Belmont checks more boxes. So why am I not just auto-locking Belmont? Because situation matters. Context matters. Belmont has already clinched the 1 seed, the regular season title in the Missouri Valley. That's done. That's secured. With the conference tournament starting up very soon, I start asking myself, what is Belmont really playing for here? I'm not saying they're going to punt this game. I'm not saying they're not competitive. But if this matchup plays out like a tight second-half grind, is Belmont diving on the floor for every loose ball? Or are they thinking, just get out of here healthy, get to the Missouri Valley Conference tournament, and protect the bigger prize? On the other side, Illinois State is in a log jam for the 2-4 seeds in the Missouri Valley. And this is where it gets really interesting to me. If you're in the 2 or 3 spot, you're likely going to get one of the teams that's already had a play-in tournament game. That means rest advantage. That means you're playing a team that just had to burn energy the night before. That's real. That matters in conference tournaments. While the 4 versus 5 matchup will be the first game of the tournament for both sides, so that rest advantage goes out the window. So if I'm Illinois State at 11-8 in conference, sitting a game back of 3 teams that are 12-7, I'm staring at the standings knowing I need this. They are 1 game back in that cluster. They need to leapfrog someone. They need to create separation. This isn't just another regular season game. This is positioning. This is trying to avoid that 4 versus 5 coin flip. This is trying to grab the 2 or 3 seed and force someone else to play extra basketball before they see you. One path I see here is Illinois State treating this like their postseason has already started. Defensively locked in, physical, urgent, especially at home. Meanwhile, Belmont, even if they play well, might subconsciously manage minutes, manage intensity, because the regular season title in the Missouri Valley is already theirs. The 1 seed is already theirs. There's no upward mobility left. And I keep coming back to that motivational split. Illinois State does not have the luxury Belmont has. Belmont's concern should just be making sure they get to the Missouri Valley Conference tournament healthy. Illinois State doesn't have that luxury. If they really want to get an advantage and try to get to the 2 or the 3 seed, they've got to leapfrog some teams and get a win here to do it. And this is a statement opportunity at home against the 26-4, 16-3 team that's already clinched. Yeah, Belmont is hotter on paper. Yeah, they've won 4 straight. Yeah, they're 26-4. But sometimes this late in the season, urgency beats comfort. And Illinois State at 19-11, 11-8, coming off a 7,169 win over Northern Iowa, sitting 1 game back of those 12-7 teams, at home, needing to break that weird win-loss alternation cycle, this feels like the spot where the desperation overrides the pattern. So I'm rolling with Illinois State at home in this one based on the motivation factor and the conference positioning edge. And yeah, that's why the lean sticks at Illinois State at home. Alright, that wraps it up for the 4 college basketball matchups on March 1st. As always, this was analysis and opinion only, nothing guaranteed, just me working through how Purdue at Ohio State, Michigan State at Indiana, and Rutgers at Maryland could realistically play out if the situations unfold the way they look on paper. Now I'm curious how you're seeing these spots. Drop AZ in the comments and let me know which matchup stood out to you the most. Are you riding the bounce back? Are you fading the letdown? Are you going contrarian on the total? I want to hear it. More breakdowns coming soon, same raw format, same deep dives, same thinking out loud style. Appreciate you guys for rocking with me. Let's cash smart and I'll see you in the next one.